Now it is time for Corner Table. It's our theater review segment. It features legendary critic John Simon and newcomer Justin Brown. As many of you may know Simon, he wrote for the New York Magazine for more than 35 years. He's also been featured in the New York Times, Washington Post, among many others. Justin, he's an actor and director who's just getting started in the critic game. Well, tonight they're reviewing Stephen Sondheim's Pulitzer Prize winning play, Sunday in the Park with George. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal.
Hey, John.
Hi.
So today we're talking about the masterpiece that is James Lapine and Stephen Sondheim's A Sunday in the Park with George. This show is a Pulitzer Prize winning piece. It is a two-time Tony Award winning piece, and it has been ingrained in the human subconscious if you are a musical theater person. And this is only the second Broadway revival. The last one was 2006. And it was initially a production that was done in London that transferred. So what are your initial thoughts on this production?
Well, my initial thoughts are that inasmuch as the painting on which it is based is a painting with a tremendous depth to it, you almost follow the river to its source practically. And then to have a stage which can only utilize half a stage, cuts it in half, as it were, and makes it somewhat less interesting than it ought to be.
I was actually very impressed. So the scenic design is by Beowulf Boritt, if I'm not mistaken.
He's very good. I feel I discovered him. I was the first critic.
Yeah?
I was the first critic to give a panegyric to his work.
He's very smart. I love his work. I've seen him do a variety of different things. He does this thing that really struck me in the first 10 minutes of the show, which was the drop of the canvas, just a canvas cloth, and having the multimedia being shot onto it and then disappearing.
Well, it was rear projection.
Yeah, it was multimedia projection onto it, which, you know, when I think about the original production of Sunday, I think about the ingenious technology that they were using in certain ways that we hadn't really seen on stage. And so thinking about, you know, how Sarna Lapine, who is the niece of James, working together with Beowulf to create something that way, I think is really smart.
One more word. With a name like Beowulf Boritt, you have to be good.
I felt that there were moments where Sarna was really echoing to what James had created back in '84. And in a way, I thought she honored very well parts of the original production in terms of how she was able to move all of these people in this space in a very similar way, just like Anne Ye, who's a musical staging director.
It wasn't badly directed, but think of her, Sarna. She is the niece of James Lapine. That's a flagrant case of nepotism.
True. Well, let's talk about what's on a lot of people's minds, which is Jake Gyllenhaal. This is, maybe his third time on Broadway, I want to say now. Well, second time on Broadway, the second time doing a musical, third time doing theater in New York in the past 4 years. How did you feel about Jake Gyllenhaal?
Well, he's likable, and he works hard, and you respect what he's doing. But there's some little thing missing from him.
I agree. I feel very projected about him.
Yeah.
Very put on. He also does this thing with his voice, and I have a really big problem when you're trying to fill shoes like Mandy Patinkin's shoes. It's one of those things where when you are doing a revival, you don't get to have the wiggle room of having something written around what you do. He doesn't have the same voice as Mandy Patinkin. He doesn't. And whenever he's holding a note out, due to the fact that he's not a trained singer that way, it falls to the back of his throat, he's a quarter tone flat, and it feels very forced and heavy for me. I found him to be very stoic, very monotonous, which is a problem for me and a lot of film actors. It made a rough contrast to someone as beautifully diverse of a palette as Annalee Ashford, who I thought brought a lot of fun and joy to Dot.
You know what's very good about Ashford, among other things, is that she somehow looks French.
True, she
Bernadette Peters did not look French. She was adorable, but she wasn't French. This woman really is somehow French. The hairdo, the whole face, and that's good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
How did you feel about her in terms of her performance this evening?
Oh, she's very capable. She can do a lot of things, and she pulls them all out. She doesn't spare her talents. She gives them lavishly, and so she should. She's good. She
She's
does
very
the
good.
job.
I think my other joy with this production of Sunday is seeing diversity in this cast being highlighted. So having women like Tony Award winner Ruthie Ann Mills, who I think is a fabulous actress, Ashley Park, and a variety of others in this show who have spoken on the diversity of them being in it, because there's been a little bit of controversy behind this kind of historical authenticity of the people in this painting.
Yeah, well, when there are that many people on stage, no character gets more than some rudimentary sparing time. You can't go into great depth in that little time and in that huge a cast. So everybody has to be very good to be able to project a small part into something bigger.
Absolutely.
And most of them do it.
I agree. I think that the soldier scene, for example, was wonderful. I much preferred how it was done in this production than in the original one.
There was a cardboard one.
Yeah.
There was a real one. And here they were both real.
And this time they were real, which I thought was hilarious. And then there was Penny Fuller, who I find very magnetizing. And I think that, older actresses have this je ne sais quoi about them. And there's this magnetic presence. Her changing, I think, was revelatory for me. And I know that we're both fans of Barbara Bryan, who was originally in the role of Old Lady.
She was terrific, but so is this girl,
Yeah, Penny Fuller, I think, was really fabulous, and her eyes, or something about the way that she channels communication in her face. So what are we telling them, John? How do you feel about it?
I feel good about it, and I think there's a lot of things. The only thing I really miss is that in the original production, you felt people who were not part of the painting slide into those parts. Here they don't do the sliding into the part,
I agree.
which is a nice thing and a good thing.
Yeah. So we're seeing Sunday in the Park with George?
I would say see it. I mean, it may not be quite a walk in the park, but
Absolutely. Well, John is saying, go see Sunday. I'm saying, go see Sunday. Go see it. It's perfect.